Hey there, and welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast, the show that's all about helping photographers just like you build a thriving business without sacrificing your sanity. I'm your host, Kendra Swalls, a former teacher turned full-time photographer and marketing coach, here to fill your earbuds each week with practical tips, real-life stories, and a whole lot of encouragement. So if you're ready to dive in, let's get to it because this girl means business. Hey friend, welcome back to the Girl Means Business podcast. Just a heads up, a little behind the scenes. I am actually recording this from a hotel room because I'm traveling for the next 2 weeks and left my microphone at home. So I am winging it with a little mini Bluetooth microphone that I had that I just happened to have in my backpack. So I got lucky there. But if you hear background noise this week or next week, just know it's because it's being recorded in a non-typical location without all of my usual equipment. But we're going to roll with it. That's part of the fun of having this podcast, is that I can just do it from wherever, whenever, and with whatever equipment I have available. And it is what it is. That's being a business owner. Okay, so we're going to dive into this part 2 of blogging for photographers. So in part 1, we talked a lot about why blogging is so valuable. I shared my experience with blogging and traffic that is driven to my site. And so in this episode, what I really want to dive into are like one of two things. One is the number one question I get asked when it comes to blogging, which is, what do I actually blog about? And then number 2 is, how do I actually create a blog post that gets seen? And so what I want to really talk about first is that first question of, what do I even blog about? And this is where I think a lot of photographers get a little bit lost when it comes to blogging, because in their mind, they're thinking, well, blogging means I'm blogging my sessions, I'm blogging my most recent shoots. And I will have photographers that will come to me and they'll say, I don't have anything new to blog. I don't have any new sessions. Like, what am I supposed to do? And they'll kind of say the same thing about social media of like, I don't have any new sessions. What should I put on social media? But with blogging, I think that we were all kind of taught this old school way where you blog your sessions. And as photographers, like, it kind of makes sense because you want to show off your work. And if you can do it in a blog post and you talk about the couple or the family or the baby or whoever, and then you share a bunch of pictures, and that's good and great. And I still say, like, do that. Like, don't shy away from sharing your sessions on your blog. I think that can still be really beneficial, but I don't want that to be the only thing that you are sharing on your blog. So if you're not just sharing your sessions, what should you be sharing? You need to be sharing content that your audience, your ideal client, would be searching for online. This is going to be things that are educational, things that can become a resource for your client, things that are going to help them in their whatever phase of life they're in as far as how it pertains or relates to photography. And I'll give examples, don't worry. But you want to think outside the box of just, I want to blog about my sessions. Because ultimately, let's take, for example, let's say that you did a family session for the Jones family, and it's mom, dad, 2 little kids, and a dog. And you did their family session, and you did it at a local park in your town. And so you could blog about the Jones family session, fall photos or whatever, fall photos in Kentucky, wherever you're located. And you could talk about how great the family was and how much fun you had, and the fact that, like, the dog was running around like crazy, but then you loved all the sweet snuggles that they got with the puppy or the dog, and like all the things. Nobody is going to really care about those storytelling behind that session except for you and the family the pictures are of. So let's take this same session, the family with the 2 kids, the dog, at a local park. And maybe you turn it into a blog post about why it's a good idea to bring your furry friend to your session, about the fun it can be to incorporate your family pet into your sessions, whether it's at a local park or in your home, but that if your pet is part of your family, then they should also be part of your family portraits. And that's now a really cool, exciting post that anybody can relate to that has pets. And then they might be searching for things like can I include my dog in our family photos? Or should I include my dog in my family photos or my pet in my family photos? And those are SEO keywords that you can incorporate into your title and into your post. And now you've created a post that is not just something that your client will want to read, but that other people will want to read and will find interesting. But you've still showed off the same session, the same photos that you would have in that original post. So you just need to take aspects of your sessions and use them to create topics your clients might be interested in. If you wanted to spin it a different way, you could have done a whole session or a whole blog post about why you like this certain park for photos. Like, what are the different spots of the park that you like? What time of day is it good for? Is there a time of year that it looks better than other times? And you kind of spotlight that local location in your area. And that's something that people might be searching for. They might be searching for, City Park, by whatever name the park is called, photo shoot or family photos at such and such park. And they might come across your blog post. So the key here is when it comes to creating ideas of what to blog about, it's not just about like, what are my recent sessions that I've done that I need to showcase on my blog? It's how can I create content that my audience is going to find interesting, informative, educational, entertaining, valuable, all of those things. It could even be like funny outtakes. If you have a session and maybe something really crazy funny happens and you want to blog about that, and even share some of the crazy like behind the scene photos that didn't make the cut. You could write a blog about your editing process, share befores and afters of why it's so important to hire a professional photographer because the editing makes a difference. You could blog about why golden hour versus midday lighting is going to affect your photos. If you, based on your genre, you could blog about certain things related to your genre. One of the blog posts that I find is the most searched for or the most viewed of mine is when I share location ideas. So when I did wedding photography, I had a whole series of blog posts where I highlighted like wedding venues that were great if you want to use an outdoor space, wedding venues that are great if you want a traditional church wedding with a ceremony or a reception afterwards, venues that are really great if you are getting married in the summer versus the winter. So I did a whole series about, these different venues, and they became really popular because people were searching for those venue titles, and then they would pull up my blog post. I've done the same thing with like florists and dress shops. And, if you're a family photographer, you could do like local boutiques or senior photographer, best places to get in town to get outfits for your senior session. Anything that highlights local places that your audience might be searching for is going to be really helpful in getting those keywords that people are looking for when it comes to SEO and searchability. So speaking of SEO, let's jump into kind of the second part of this episode, which is talking about how to get found on Google, because the whole purpose of blogging is to get more eyes on your content, more eyes onto your website, more traffic to your website. All of those things are really valuable, not only for boosting your Google searchability, but also for getting obviously new clients coming in. If they're landing on your site, they're looking at your content, you're more likely to get inquiries and bookings and all the things. So let's talk really briefly about what SEO is. So SEO is search engine optimization. It is how likely are you to get found in a Google search. So let's take, for example, the blog post about should you include your family pet or should you include your pet in your family photos? It's a great title. That is probably something people are going to be searching for. It gives a lot of SEO capabilities to your blog post, especially if you're including those same keywords in your actual content. So what happens when someone goes to Google, a potential client, they type in the Google search bar, should I bring my pet to my family photos, or can we include pets in our family photos, or examples of pets in family photos? These little crawlers, these little digital crawlers go out into the internet and they are looking for anything that is connected to that search phrase. Okay. So they're looking for pet, photo shoot, family photos, should I, all of those things together and separately. That's why when you do a Google search, a lot of times it'll give you the results, but it will cross out the words that it didn't find. So it might come back with, including your family pet and photo, or your pet and your family photos, but it may cross off the should we, that kind of thing. So those little crawlers are going out into the internet and they are searching for these keywords, and then they're pulling back to the results the best fits for those keywords. And a lot of times the best fit isn't necessarily just the ones that had the most matches in keywords. They're looking at things like, how up to date is this website? How credible is it? Is it a site that gets a lot of traffic because that lets people know that it's still, viable? Does it have a lot of good Google reviews attached to it? Like, it's looking for all of these different pieces of the puzzle. But don't let that overwhelm you. I promise it's a lot easier than it sounds. But a lot of that is pieced together through the use of these blogs. So because you're putting on a blog that has the keywords in the title is really important here, which we'll get to. Because you're putting the keywords in that title, Google's pulling in your posts from that search. But then it's also looking at, like, does this website, is it up to date? How often are you putting content out there? Well, if you're blogging every couple of weeks or once a week or even once a month, you're going to have new content on your website. That's going to tell Google that you are a valid website because you have new content going onto your website every single week or every single month. It's going to look at, are people coming to your website? Well, if you're putting out blogs, you're sharing that blog content on social media with your email list. You're getting people to come to your blog and read it, or come to your website and look at it. You're getting traffic. Traffic is key. Google wants to see that other people are coming to your website. That blog is going to help drive traffic. Putting it on Pinterest is a great way. If you're blogging a lot, I highly suggest using Pinterest to get your blogs out there and get more traffic to your blogs and your website. So all of those things together, along with the SEO piece of your blog, is going to help tell Google where you should rank in those search results. And so the more you get used to blogging, the more you're putting content out on a regular basis, the more keywords you're putting out there that your audience is searching for, the more traffic that's coming to your site, the higher you're going to rank on Google. Now, ranking on Google is not an overnight thing. You're not going to go out tomorrow and post a blog post, especially if you haven't blogged in years, and be number one on Google. It is a slow build. Sometimes it's faster than others, but just know that it's going to take a little bit of work to get that consistency there and to find those right keywords that people are searching for. But once you find it and you hit this kind of ongoing consistency, then you're going to find that the results come in faster and faster and faster.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We were hiring when we were making 50 to 100K monthly losses.
And why? Welcome to episode 1.
I can't think of a single founder who's been around for a decent amount of time in business who hasn't had their tunnel of year. This was that year. We're going to be okay, yeah, Sheree. Some are going to hear this and think, you TDP. But hear me out. You only have to do the math to understand that very soon we were $500,000 down.
Okay, so that kind of gives you a brief little summary of how the SEO piece works. So now let's talk about how to use those things in your blog post. So let's start with the number one thing you need to look at, which is your blog topic, the title. This is where those keywords are really key because this is the first thing. It's like the headline of a magazine, right? If you're standing in the checkout line at a grocery store and you see a magazine next to you and it has a really catchy title of something that would interest you, you're going to want to pick it up and read it. But if the title is just celebrity news, that's not as exciting as like some scandalous, story about a celebrity. So you have to think of your blog title as that cover story that's going to grab people's attention and make them want to read what's inside. Now, unlike the tabloids, you want to make sure your title matches the actual content of your story or your blog post. So we don't want to deceive and we don't want to, use the whole like clickbait, bait and switch kind of thing just to get people to read it. We do want the title and the content to align, but there are ways that you can make your title be SEO rich, but also still match your content. So let's go back to the idea of, that family session. So instead of saying, fall family session ideas or what to wear for your fall family session, okay, those are going to be less high, or they're going to be, well, I guess less high would mean lower. Sometimes the words just don't come like I want them to anymore. So the searchability would be lower. So you want to tweak that title to make it something that those keywords are going to latch onto. So if you're doing, what to wear for your fall session, that might be highly searchable, but it's also going to be highly competitive because there's a lot of people using those keywords in their content. So instead, maybe you change it up. Maybe you say 3 things to avoid in your fall family wardrobes. Or the number one thing most people forget to bring to their fall family session, or 3 things that most families forget to bring to their fall family session. It's going to grab attention. It's going to be a little bit different than what everybody else is putting out there, but you're still using some of those important keywords that you want to be found in a search for. So thinking strategically, this is where ChatGPT can be a really big help. If you already kind of have an idea of what you want your blog topic to be or title to be, throw it into ChatGPT and just say, this is the title of my blog post. This is my target audience. Help me create an SEO-friendly, highly searchable blog title, and it will give you a couple of options, and then you can have it tweak it from there or choose the one you like best. Sometimes I combine 2 of them that I like into one. So this is where you can use ChatGPT to help you. Let it know what your goal is, what your topic is, and it will provide you with some options for a strong title. You can also take the actual blog post, throw that in ChatGPT and say, based on the information in this blog post, what would be a really highly searchable blog title to use here? So again, ChatGPT can be your friend here. Now, speaking of the content in ChatGPT, let's talk about something here. I am all for letting ChatGPT help me with my blog content. I do not use ChatGPT written blog content for a couple of reasons. One is people have gotten really savvy at being able to identify content that was AI generated. You can tell when you read a blog post that was created by ChatGPT or any of the other content creation bots or apps versus one that was written by a human. Now, having said that, there are definitely times when I write a blog post and I think, this is crap. I don't always feel like writing is my strong point. I like to write. I enjoy writing. I really appreciate very well written content. I don't always feel like that I can create that on my own all the time. I'm not always in the right headspace or have the right whatever. So I will take my writing, I will put it into ChatGPT and I will say, help me to create something that sounds more personable, something that sounds more relatable, something that sounds more professional, whatever it is I want it to sound more like, or help me to make this more flowery or more storytelling based or whatever. And it will do that. And then I can kind of take what it gives me and go through it and kind of tweak it until it becomes the thing that is from me. It was written by me, but it was just kind of zhuzhed up a little bit using ChatGPT. So that would be my recommendation. You definitely don't want to create content that feels like AI. And it's also going to affect you more and more and more in your SEO and searchability rankings because Google is able to identify when things don't sound natural. With the explosion of AI content, all of these platforms, Google and all of the ones that are like searchability platforms, primarily Google, they are becoming very savvy and they are trying to constantly stay ahead of what is AI and what is not, what is genuine content and what is not. And so it's best just to say, like, if you want ChatGPT to write something for you, but then you go in and you make it your own, that's fine. When I do these podcasts, a lot of times I'll take my topic and my main talking points and I will tell ChatGPT, like, hey, can you create an outline for me? And I use that outline to help keep me pacing in the right direction and not going off on random side tangents, although I do that sometimes anyway. But that helps me. I'm not asking ChatGPT to write this episode for me. I'm just asking it to help me figure out a framework. I do the same thing with blog content. I will say, this is my topic. These are kind of the main points I want to hit. Give me a framework to start writing within. And it might give me like my headers and then I fill in the content. Or it might give me the talking points and then I kind of go from there. It's a really good way to help me organize my thoughts and then also to take my content and just kind of elevate my content a level or two up. So you don't have to avoid ChatGPT completely when it comes to your blog content, but you also don't want to rely on it completely for your blog content. You got to find that happy medium that is going to sound and feel like it came from you, but also still be searchable and discoverable by those Google bots. One of the things that sets you apart is writing the way that you talk. There is nothing wrong with writing the way you talk when it comes to your blog. You don't have to write your blog post like it's a high school English essay where you were taught to like follow these certain rules. So if you can say like, hey, I typically use the word y'all a lot, I can put that into my writing. If I know that I like to use references to, early 2000s and 90s content, I can throw that in there. Like, make sure it sounds like you so that when someone is reading your content and they meet you in person, it's going to feel like the same person. So you want to make sure you keep it like that. The last thing I'll say about your content here is try not to keyword stuff. You might hear people online say, put in these keywords and use them more often. And you want it to still sound natural. So you don't want to be like every other line saying, Dallas, Texas, this. Like, I have seen some people write blog posts and they'll like a million times throughout their blog post, they'll say things like, I love being a photographer in Dallas, Texas, because there's so many incredible locations around the Dallas, Texas area. And I'm like, you're using Dallas so much. Like, you don't need to stuff these keywords into your content. It's going to start to feel just like you're only doing this for the purpose of getting your SEO up. And again, Google is becoming very comfortable with these things. They're becoming very aware of these things, and they're going to penalize you for that. So you want it to sound very natural. One thing I have started doing, this is a test that I'm doing with my blog. I will keep you posted on how it's working for me. But I was recommended this from someone else that I know who's loves like SEO and blogging are like their world. They said one of the ways that you can incorporate some additional keywords, but also kind of hit some of the like phrases or variations in phrases within your content is at the bottom of your blog post, you can add a couple of like follow-up questions that your audience might ask. So for example, let's say you go back to the topic of should you include your pet in your family photos? You write your blog post, you share photos of you share photos that you've taken of families with their pets. You include, side note, on your images, add keywords to the back end of all your images. That means your alt text, your titles, all those things. Have those keywords there as well because they could show up in a visual search on Google. So you'll have your blog post. Then at the bottom, maybe you add a couple additional questions that your audience might be asking that will also include some of these keywords. Think of it like a little subsection at the bottom of your blog post where, and I've seen some people do this like the TLDR, like too long, don't read or didn't read. And it's like a little summary of what the whole content was. This is similar to that. It's like a TLDR, but with like your specific little bullet points from your topic and written in like an FAQ type fashion. So going back to the idea of like, should you include your dog in your family pet? Or, oh my gosh, should you include your pet in your family photos? I keep messing that title up. Okay, so some of the things you could put at the bottom might be FAQs that your clients would ask. Things like, what if my dog doesn't sit still for photos? And then you write a very short answer. Are outdoor locations better for photos with pets, or should we do them in our home? Then you write like a quick little answer. Can my pet be in all of the photos or just some of them? Should we bring somebody to take care of our dog while we're doing other photos? So these are things that you could have talked about in your blog post, but you're pulling them out as like frequently asked questions. That way, if someone is skimming the content, they can kind of get their main questions answered down there at the bottom, and you can put it in a different like little formatting. You can have a little separator. You can put it with a color block behind it so it stands out a little bit. But it's something that kind of sets it apart. The key thing is here, though, you're getting that extra SEO boost because these are all things that people might be typing into a search bar in Google. You've now included it in this blog post instead of having to create a separate blog post for each one. So you can still do separate blog posts on, what should your pet wear for family photos could be a part of one. But really, like, you're just kind of helping to boost those keywords that someone else might be searching for that's there in your content. Okay, so wrapping all of this up for part 2 of the blogging series here, I just want to remind you that your blog is a long game. So not every single blog post you create is going to be this like huge success for your business. It's not going to be the thing that gets traffic to your site. It's going to build upon each other and grow over time. So do not put pressure on yourself to make every single blog post this like magically perfect thing. The key here is to consistently put out content. Again, whether that is once a week, every 2 weeks, once a month, consistently put out content that is going to be valuable to your client and that's going to help get you that boost in rankings and SEO, get those keywords out there. And if you are just starting out in blogging, like the best thing here is just start, because a simple post that gets published is by far better than the one that never sees the light of day. All right, guys, that is going to wrap up part 2 of the Blogging for Photographers series. Make sure you come back next week because we're going to talk about how to take those blog posts and the people who come to those blog posts and turn those into potential clients. So I've got some really cool key ways for you to capture the traffic that's coming to all these blog pieces that you're putting out there and keep them around so that you can turn them into potential clients. We'll wrap everything up with this blogging series with a nice pretty bow, have you completely ready to start blogging in your photography business. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here once again. I really appreciate it. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you back here next week, same time, same place.